topic for the session is going to be strengthening renewable climate milestones to decarbonize the Indian economy to net zero by 2070. As Indians, we are standing at a critical juncture faced with a choice that will shape our future continue down the path of fossil fuels or embark on a journey towards a cleaner, greener tomorrow. We are choosing the latter, committing to a future powered by renewable energy, cleaner transport, and sustainable practices. By 2030, we aim to increase our renewable energy capacity to 500 GW, reduce emissions by 45% and promote electric vehicles and public transport, efficiency and sustainable land use practices are norm and our economy is fueled by carbon pricing, green financing and climate reliance measures. This is our predict to ourselves, our children and future generation, a sustainable and equitable India for all. Now I will request our moderator, Mr. Abhijit Sinha, to please join us on stage. The Technocrat as of Doing Business Program, Director, National Highways for Electric Vehicles, President, CPOS of India, and ex-CAC member. With this, I will request our panelists to please join us. Mr. Lavkush, COO, Orbus. Is he here? Yes. Mr. Professor Mohammad Rehan, Director General, National Institute of Solar Energy, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Our Lady Vaishali Singh, Program Manager, Transport System and Electric Mobility, ITDB, India. Mr. Brajesh Patel, Managing Director, Photonic Water Tech Private Limited. A.R. Vaishle, Director and Principal, Dodley Studio Private Limited. Mr. Saurabh Verma, Vice President, Samin, TechMint, India. Over to you guys. This session is going to be for 1 hour, so thank you for joining us. Over to your team.
A very good afternoon to all of you, our esteemed dignitaries, panel speakers who comes from diverse part of solar, electric mobility, energy and transformation. It's a privilege to be here and conducting this particular conversation from last 4 years, and has also been proven to be productive in terms of providing an quality, a relatable and convincing context and content for both our audience who are there in this hall and those who are listening to us online. Viksit Bharat in pretext of power and energy is something on which I am going to open and give a opening pretext to it. और आप सब इस बात से उतना ही इत्तेफाक रखते हैं, उम्मीद करता हूँ जितना मैं रखता हूँ, that the transformation which India is going through is unprecedented in the history of mankind. खासकर तब जब आप एक ऐसे देश की बात कर रहे हैं जिसने पिछले 10 सालों में अपनी सोच, अपनी दिशा और अपनी इकोनॉमी को एक नया और एक बहुत ही स्ट्रॉन्ग ट्रेजेक्टरी के ऊपर डाला है। 2013 से 2023 मैं 24 को इंक्लूड नहीं कर रहा हूँ, is because there is a milestone that we have achieved in 2023's G20, which is apex of global endorsement to what we have been doing in different structural reform, including economy, industry, cultural, and various other aspects of our economy, and also a testament of what we were in 2013. Fragile 5 की इकोनॉमी से 5 biggest thriving economy, highest growing economy का टैग 10 साल के अंदर जिस तरह से भारत ने पूरा किया है, इसमें इस जर्नी में विकसित भारत 2047, 2047 with turn 100, energy dependency, particularly our adoption to a greener, cleaner, and more sustainable energy ecosystem, which includes mobility, also household and industrial, is an important aspect which we may not afford to lose. And with all sincerity and conviction and commitment, Lord, please join us. In all sincerity, commitment, and conviction, I take this opportunity to enlighten each one of you, including our co-panelists who are working day and night very close with us to make this possible, that we are in mid of a global crisis. And this crisis that is happening into Middle East, I hope you all know what is happening between Iran, Israel, Ukraine, Russia. Each one of them, they are giving us a signal that oil and dependency on oil economy is something you need to read of. And if we do not do it so in a very quick, fast manner, then whatever you earn from different ecosystem and different other microeconomies, you will end up paying to crude oil prices if it fluctuates in the international market. So I will not take a lot of your time. We are very excited to hear from Dr. Rihanna, and it is a great pleasure to have him here and give us a perspective of how India has been looking forward to it. So I will just take 2 key dots instead of keynotes to give you that where and what we can do. Right now, if you see the transition or the ambition which we have globally and on the national level also, it has to be met by a new ecosystem of wiring. Why I'm using the word wiring is because you have to reach to multiple locations along with a high density and high carry forward cables to give power to electric mobility, to give power to the new industrialization. And this new industrialization, ladies and gentlemen, is unprecedented. Every minute, 30 people, 30 persons from a rural settlement is moving to an urban outfit in India. And all of these people, all of this urbanization which is happening in India is asking for food, home, shelter, school, hospital, and everything. And each one of them, they have to consume domestic and industrial and commercial power. If you include electric mobility, then there is a different voltage and ampere is required. This may not be, if you may have done electrification or you may enjoy the tag of electrification, but how many years? Maybe 1 or 2 years. Soon you have to go back to those locations where you have done electrification and tell them that I'm giving you another line of wire which is capable to charge a fast, to run a DC fast charger for your vehicle. So if we have to go, it is inevitable to do this transformation again on the pan-India level, which we today flaunt that we have done national integration on the electricity. Then we have only 2 ways, wireless and wired. I may not be a very technically sound person to give good terms to it, but this is how I look at it. Wireless is what you receive from renewable. From my understanding, solar is a wireless. You can set up a solar in a house and you can power it there only. You do not need an LT, HT to bring it to that location. From a transformation, from transformer to your grid for distribution. And wired is what I believe can be generated at one location, maybe in a solar park or maybe in a thermal grid or maybe in a nuclear reactor. So if this entire transformation in India to achieve the national ambition right now has to be redone, then we have to look into the opportunity that we do not go wired, we go wireless. And when you say you go wireless, you conceive this idea of being wireless, you have to look at energy storage, you have to look at possibility of bidirectional grid. So the entire concept changes the moment you conceive this idea that it is not a very good idea to go for again and distribution wiring and transformers and everything. This particular situation on a global perspective is highly alarming. I'm leaving you all with this thought. Eminent speakers will throw more light on it, that how do we go for mobility, for industrial, for domestic uses, and how do we call for independence on the unit level, on the entity level, or on the utility level. These might be charging stations, these might be household, these might be small manufacturing plants, but each one of them, they have to look on the possibilities and nearest possible available technologies and resources to declare themselves that I am wireless. I do not need a complete infrastructure. Now I'm National Program Director of Ease of Doing Business. I must have thought something behind it, and that thought is the cost comparison between both of them. If you go for wired, what is the cost that you spend from making a high density, high HT line to a distribution transformer is again something we need to look at it very, very carefully. Is it possible for us to use that cost to make that particular utility or consumption outlet connected and integrated with solar and then going forward? So these were my 2 points, and I open this conversation with a very esteemed keynote address from our very special keynote speaker, Dr. Professor Rihana, and I'm glad that he could make it possible to come and join us. We look forward to have more perspective, what I have given from the ease of doing business point of view, and also hear a little bit about how India look at these opportunities and challenges. Thank you, each one of you, and look forward to have more interaction from audience also.
Shri Abhijit Sinha ji and all my co-panelists, all the esteemed guest participants here, a very good afternoon. First of all, I congratulate Abhijit Sinha ji. In fact, I have been following your work of ease of doing business for some time now, and I really appreciate what all your efforts are in terms of national concerns and requirements. And the way you have conceptualized this panel discussion today and the mix of speakers you have, I'm sure it will be a fruitful deliberation for all of us. Second thing which I wanted to appreciate is you have so wonderfully put two important points which I wanted to mention in my talk also. One is the way you are highlighting the energy and the national. Personally, I believe energy is almost equivalent to, it's a concept of national security now. The sort of dependence we have on electricity, we call it as a digital age. The society, this is a digital society, this is an age of internet, computer and other applications. But we often forget to realize that this is actually an age of electricity, because all these things are running on electricity. And from our personal life to professional life to national institutions, all require a reliable supply of electricity. So that makes it a national concern that we ensure that how we are going to meet our requirements of electricity. Now, the last 10 years, our story in terms of transitioning to a source of electricity which is not detrimental to environment is of an extraordinary achievement. The way we have come from around 10 megawatt in 2011 to around 87 gigawatt of solar right now, and around 100 gigawatt is in pipeline. Pipeline means it is under implementation. And we are set to achieve our 300 gigawatt or so target of solar energy and 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel energy by 2030. But here comes, naturally, as you have also mentioned, this is a once in a lifetime phenomena which we are observing. And when we are implementing on such a large scale, there are some challenges also. So one of the challenge which I wanted to highlight is, when I have a huge share of solar energy supplying my system, then as you know, solar energy is available during sunshine hours, and at the time of sunset, it is no more available. So my all requirement comes back to my conventional system, or I need some storage. Now storage, as you know, although the major breakthroughs are coming in storage and we are expecting much more breakthroughs, but still this is a challenge. So the idea is we need to minimize the storage requirement also. So here comes in the role of electric vehicle. We see electric vehicle as a component which can decarbonize the road transport sector. But I believe this is an important part of this whole green energy transition puzzle. Why? Because we are heading towards a situation where daytime we may have excess generation compared to our requirement. And this is already observed in certain small countries or utilities, and there is a term for it now, duck curve. Now this is a concept of duck curve, where we see sudden dip in the grid, withdrawal from the grid at the time of sunrise, and sudden spike at the time of sunset, when our solar is turning on and turning off. So we'll be having a situation where our generation may be much more than the requirement during sunshine hours. How to utilize that? So one option is storage. But EV comes into picture here. So if we are transitioning to an electric vehicle-based transportation system, that in itself is an important step, because compared to fossil fuel based, it is always a better option, a vehicle which is on electricity. But if we can utilize the green electricity more and more for this purpose, so it is serving two purposes. It is giving us double benefit of transport shifting from fossil fuels to solar energy, plus it will help in increasing the share of solar energy also in the system. So see, if we have, and we need to think about this whole as a complete picture. I cannot devise a policy for EV without taking into consideration solar energy where we are heading to. Similarly, I cannot devise a policy for solar energy without taking into account the electric vehicle market. For example, suppose I promote electric vehicles at a large scale, but people are mostly charging those vehicles during night time after their office hours when they reach back to their houses. That will not be a preferable scenario. The preferable scenario is these vehicles should be charged during daytime when I have excess amount of generation which requires to be utilized somewhere. So we need to see how we can promote this system. There is already an important policy which is under implementation, the battery swapping policy. The idea is that you need not wait for going back to your house in the evening to charge the electric vehicle. So likewise, and third component which comes into picture is this innovative tariff systems also. How will motivate people to charge their electric vehicles during daytimes when I have excess amount of solar energy available? This is also another important part. So the crux of my talk is that we need to take the whole picture. And your specific question to me was something on how institutes have to look into that. So I believe institutes have to look at the complete picture. Somehow in our universities and colleges, we are working in compartments. If I am working in electrical energy, I am only dealing with that part. If I am into the transport sector, I am looking that part only. But you see, this whole energy sector requires a holistic approach. It is interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approach. We have some friends from the university also, and my message to the universities and colleges is that let us break the boundaries and work together, because as I have mentioned, I see electric vehicle as an important component which not only will lead to decarbonization of transport sector, but it is an important component in ensuring larger share of solar energy. Because as I mentioned, we are heading towards a situation where daytime generation will be maybe more than the requirement itself. Second important point is, as the whole idea is addressing climate change and global warming. So natural disasters are also becoming much more common. And as I mentioned in the beginning, that electricity infrastructure is crucial from the whole national perspective. So these vehicles are actually distributed storehouses of electricity. So in case of some disaster where you need emergency supply to feed some area, some limited area, they can serve there also. So this is also another important part where I see the role of EVs. Third point, as Abhijit Sinha ji mentioned, that he very well described it in an innovative way, wired and wireless. So he is saying that the small solar system which is located in your house or office, he is calling it as a wireless system, because it does not require the external infrastructure. So I also believe, I also second that thought, that the true benefits of solar energy lie in its use as a distributed source of energy. And for capacity augmentation, we started with large-scale solar plants, but it is high time now that we utilize it in the form of distributed source of energy. So ideal scenario is, I have my rooftop, I have the solar plant there, I am using it for my local requirements, I am charging my vehicle by using that setup itself. So most of my requirements are locally met by the solar system. In this initiative of Honorable Prime Minister, PM Surya Ghar Yojana, where we are pushing for 1 crore rooftop solar plants, that is a very important step, because somehow our rooftop was slightly lagging compared to large plants. So this scheme has given the desired push for this, and in fact all institutions are also now being covered under that. So this is a good time where we are not only augmenting the solar capacity, but trying to realize its true benefits by making it more distributed. And electric vehicle has a very important role to play, as I have already mentioned, that not only from the point of view of decarbonizing the transport sector, I see it as a very important component in addressing this challenge of skewed. You will have lots of generation during sunshine hours. In the evening, you won't have that flexibility. So EV is there to play a very important role in that. So with that note, I think I'll stop here, and I again appreciate this effort of the organizers choosing a very important topic and combining renewable energy and electric vehicles, and I'm sure this will be a useful deliberation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for giving an insightful understanding of how we look at it as a business perspective, and you are looking at a domain expert is a bit different, but I'm sure that there are ways to find a midway and go ahead with this transition, which is including each one of them: household, mobility, other outfits of manufacturing and commercial uses. Taking this conversation forward, first person whom I want to introduce from the extreme right is Brijesh ji. Brijesh ji has been a very old associate with me since my time of Vibrant Gujarat, and his efforts in terms of electric mobility and also in the solar has not only been a company which has been working on the solar from the solar plate setting up and installation, but he has also moved over a period of time from fixed solar to a floating solar. So Brajesh ji, over to you. Please pick up the microphone, give us some insight and also your introduction.
Uh, Myself, Brijesh Patel, Director Photonics, Watertech Private Limited. First of all, thank you for inviting me here to share my knowledge and my experience. Uh, First of all, I have one concern with Mr. Mohammed that you say that हमारे पास high sign और low sign का difference है. For that, Gujarat government is working on one project. It calls PSP, Power Storage Plan. उसमें हम क्या करते हैं कि एक रिजर्वायर है लोअर साइड पे, उसके अपस्ट्रीम में एक स्टोरेज बनाते हैं विथ आर्टिफिशियल पॉन्ड और सोर्स लाइक, अगर वो नेचुरल है तो नेचुरल, अगर आर्टिफिशियली बन सकता है तो विद द यूज ऑफ अर्थ मूवर्स. डे टाइम में थ्रू सोलर पावर वी पंप द वाटर टू द अपस्ट्रीम, मीन्स 1 किलोमीटर 2 किलोमीटर एज मच एज वी कैन अकॉर्डिंग टू द फिजिबिलिटी. उसको नाइट टाइम में रिवर्स चला के उसी लाइन में हाइड्रो पावर जनरेट कर रहे हैं. एंड द बेस्ट थिंग, गुजरात गवर्नमेंट इज वर्किंग फॉर पायलट एज अ 48,000 मेगावाट. दिस इज द अनदर सॉल्यूशन फॉर वी कैन से हाई साइन एंड लो साइन. वी हैव अ डेफिसिट बिकॉज डे टाइम में हमारा पावर कंजम्पशन इतना ज़्यादा है, जनरेशन भी है, मगर नाइट टाइम में भी इंक्रीज हो रहा है. तो
दिन के समय में जो सोलर जनरेट करते हैं उससे वाटर पंप करके ऊपर भेज देते हैं.
यस, थ्रू सोलर पावर.
उसको हाइडल पावर पे डाल करके जनरेट करते हैं. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir,
Exactly
you want
right.
to add something to it?
This is pumped storage plant, and as I have mentioned, see, this problem has multiple solutions actually. So one is battery storage, the other is pumped storage plant. Pumped storage plant is an area of national importance. We are working on it. So, but what I wanted to say is electric vehicle also comes as one of the solutions during availability of excess electricity. So pumped storage is a very important component of our plans. But since we are talking of EVs here, so that is why I have focused on that only.
We can even, for EV, we have a deficit of power. We can set, see, our project, National Highway for E-Vehicle, we have set so many EV charging station within certain length. Okay, for that roadside we have space to set up ground mounted, or nearby space we have a pond or lake or dam site, we can have a floating solar. Nowadays solar power plant costing is lifetime low. We can say lifetime low. 2-3 year back अगर हम सोचते थे कि भाई हमारा पेबैक रिटर्न ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट क्या आएगा फॉर एनी इंडस्ट्री है, रेसिडेंशियल है, गवर्नमेंट है, बिग प्लांट्स है, तो वो 2.5-3 साल 4 साल तक होता था. अभी वो 2 साल से भी कम हो गया है, क्योंकि ड्यू टू कॉम्पिटिशन, ग्लोबलाइजेशन, देयर आर सो मेनी पैरामीटर्स इन इफेक्ट. बट अभी वो जो रिटर्न ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट है नियर बाय 2 years है, तो इट इज़ great time to establish a solar.
Thank you. Wonderful. Good motivating break even for a business owner to look into solar upgradation. Saurav, over to you for your introduction.
Thank you, Abhijit ji, for giving us this opportunity. And I really appreciate Professor Rayan's speech on the initiatives that have been taken up, and especially on the wireless and renewable. About myself, I am Vice President in TechMind and looking after the solutions and strategy. About TechMind is a digital technology company. Our core strength is working as an innovation partner for different industries and technologies. We are in this space for more than 17 years. of these 17 years, you won't believe, more than 12 years, we are into the energy and e-mobility domain. We were the first ones way back in 2009, 10, 11, when green IT was a buzzword in the Western world, especially in US and Europe, where we were the first ones to develop the charge station management system, which is based on the protocol called as OCPP. And thereafter, the journey started where we were again the first ones to implement the interoperability, which is on OCPI. We were the first ones to, on the energy side, as Professor Rahman also mentioned, that as the electric vehicles grow, the energy demand from the utility increases. So we implemented the demand response management system. There's a protocol called as OpenADR. So we were the first ones to get our customers certified on OpenADR. In the recent times, I would talk about wireless charging, not the one on the renewable side, but there is on the induction side also, where many pilots are happening in US and Europe. So we are the first ones to develop the charge station management system for, again, the wireless charging domain area. We are the technology partners of the parent organization that has developed the protocols on OCPP. We are working as the technology partners where the compliance test toolkit has been developed by us. We have enabled more than 7 startups, of which few of them have got acquired by Fortune 500 companies. We are very fortunate to work with NHEV as their technology partner and develop what I would, if given the liberty, to call this platform as like how we have UPI, which is a game changer across the world. Similarly, NHEV, it becomes a game changer for the world and a showcase where we are developing the unified highway energy and e-mobility platform for NHEV, which is end-to-end, covering from the source, which is the energy side. Within energy, as Sir mentioned, it comprises of distributed energy resource, and there we have developed DERMS, then energy storage systems, then comes the utility side, which will also have this platform, will also have down the line demand response management system to provide various programs for the utilities and the drivers on the highway, the charge station management system, the interoperability, the battery swapping, the fleet, all the business applications. So this is what we are going to do and we have done for NHEV, and we are thankful to them for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, Saurabh. And I'm glad that ease of doing business is being delivered to you. Otherwise, an emerging technology service provider, particularly something which is not in mass use, it is very difficult to sell this to mass for the mass deployment. NHEV vision from ease of doing business was only this, that if you are having any emerging technologies, you should not be rattled with difficulties from table to table, tender to tender for another 5 years, 6 years. So what we wish to deliver is a smooth platform. It's an Amazon kind of simple platform where once you onboard, you focus on the technology, you focused on the product, technology and services. Right now, before NHEV, the situation was people were focused on the tenders, people were focused on how to qualify for something, and most of the startup who have very innovative products, very innovative ideas, technologies and services, they are very, very far away from any tender qualification because you know how it is placed. So on the basis of merit, productivity and performance, deciding multiple materials which can contribute for decarbonization of the surface transport is what NHEV has been trying to do. On this conversation, what we are holding today is not only limited to mobility, but also having opening and doors for other players like household and manufacturing and other industrial uses to come in between and giving an insight to it. So it is also including the infrastructure, because infrastructure tomorrow is going to play a crucial role at the time of manufacturing, at the time of conceptualization and planning. So I think next speaker is quite well equipped with infrastructure and sustainability. Vaishali, you have also been working with NHEV for a long period of time. Also introduce yourself, and if you can take one of the question that how sustainable infrastructure and the future of infrastructure look like to you.
Hello. Yeah, hi everyone. This is Vaishali. So I represent Doodle Studio. coming from the architecture background, we are intending to put sustainability features or sustainable development into the built forms and the infrastructure form. And that is what we are also doing with the NHEV, and we are glad that we are the part of it. And thank you so much, Abhijit Sinha sir, and all the co-panelists to be all here. And I'm glad to work on it and on this topic. So basically, as sir specifically asked about the infrastructure and the built structure, I would like to say that, yes, we are talking a lot about renewable energy efficiency and all of that, but at the same time, there is a low key which is overseen in terms of building infrastructure, in terms of passive technologies or passive ways to make built forms better. So being an architect, I would like to say that when you are designing a building or when you are considering a building, we need to go ahead with better materials, sustainable materials, and at the same time, we should also look into how the daylight, ventilation, and efficiencies achieved by correlating all those aspects and eventually reducing the overall energy consumption. So first you reduce on the energy consumption and then look into energy offsetting parameters like renewable or having an energy efficient system in terms of HVAC or even water management system. Though we say that renewable is a great part of it, yes, it is a great part of it, but if we try to reduce on our initial energy consumption, like people say that there is a huge gap, like when we are making a building, you need to go for only like reduce on the costing part, but it is not always necessary to reduce on your capex, because eventually if you work together with like good consultants, you can go on to designing something which will eventually reduce your opex. So putting little bit amount on the capex is okay to reduce on your overall expense later. So that is what I would like to mention. And the other major point which Sir Rehan specifically mentioned about the solar panels and how there is a peak in during the day times and not during the night times. For specifically residences and for specifically smaller buildings, there is a possibility of on-grid system. So when you have an on-grid solar power system, you need not to have a storage in place. Am I right, sir? Then you can even reduce on your electricity bills at the same time. So there is a whole two-way system in which whatever you consume from the grid get offset with the solar power generation, and eventually you just pay, which is the remaining units bill. So all of this can be taken hand in hand and eventually get to a better, cleaner future. And other than that, there are other ways like water management, waste management, which can also help to basically bring towards a sustainable or clean infrastructure in this industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sir, you wish to add something to it?
So this is a very important point, the first point which Vaishali has mentioned, that if you are using green energy, I can keep on increasing my consumption. This is a very important point, and I would say it in a slightly different way. We define it as a decarbonization pyramid. So the base of that pyramid is energy conservation. First I avoid what can be avoided. The upper stage, second stage is energy efficiency. I use LEDs, I use star-rated air conditioners, everything. Third and last step, top is the green energy transition. So whatever is left now, I try to use green energy for that. Some people define 1/3 rule also, that 1/3 you save by conservation, 1/3 you save by energy efficiency. Left 1/3 is to be met by green source of energy. So this is very well brought out by Vaishali. But Second point I want to add that, yes, we have grid connected systems. And what I discussed was about grid connected systems only. The idea is everybody is exporting to the grid. But when the grid also has excess generation, then what happens? So that is the idea. That is what the utilities are observing. When you increase the share of solar energy to a large extent, then you may have excess energy at the grid level itself, not only on the household level.
Yeah, so the major concern here is people are still little head back in the sense of putting a storage system in their residences to go for a solar panels on the rooftop. So that is the reason I specified this, that encourages them to have a system there where they are actually offsetting on their energy bills
Most
for
of
a smaller
our
residence.
almost all solar systems in the country are mostly in grid connected mode only.
Right.
But the thing is, when this whole aggregates to more than the requirement, then what happens?
Yeah, definitely.
So we need to reduce the export to the grid actually. That is the. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another Vaishali on the panel. Vaishali, your experience into transportation, mobility, and also energy gives us a good, insight to expect a bigger, broader version from, because each one of us, we work in a certain domain, and you have to stitch all of them together. So I look forward to have a couple of more questions, but first your introduction, and then we'll go ahead.
Hi, so I'm the program manager at ITDP India. So we are a global non-for-profit and a think tank working in sustainable mobility over the last 25 years in India. So our primary areas of work are walking, cycling, and public transportation. So we work as advisors to the government. So we have been working with the national government, state government, and city governments as well, working them transitioning towards sustainable mobility at national, state, and city government. Over the last 25 years, we have helped them in adopting sustainable mobility policies, implementing BRT systems, improving bus transportation systems, creating and implementing walkable and cycling networks. And since the last 7-8 years as well, we have been supporting the state and city governments and, of course, the national government as well in transitioning towards electric mobility, especially electric mobility for public transportation, shared mobility, and also looking at charging infrastructure and an overall approach of electric mobility policies and how the transition can happen. So those are the broad areas of work that we look at.
Any ideas, particularly because before I move to Love, on the mobility side, where we have to look on the commencement at this stage of time? Down the line in 3-4 years, we have to again go back on the sketchboard from the financing side, from the design side, technology side, and then make them green integrated. So how do you look that, because I think already it's a little bit pull up to come out from diesel economy, invest more into it to go for electric economy. At this time, it is too much to ask for is that you look at the solar integration or renewable integration at this stage of time. How do you think where you wish to go for it? Should we do this or we should wait for another 5 years? In next 5 years, carbon credit will start haunting you. It will start saying you are still withdrawing from the thermal grid, so you are not a green carbon. So what are your thoughts on it?
I think we are already late to enter there. So just putting some numbers so that we understand where we are. So back a decade ago, already around 50 to 70% of trips were happening on public transportation and walking and cycling. But over the last decade, what we have seen that a lot of people have started shifting to their private motor vehicles. So it actually took India 60 years to add 10 crore vehicles on road. And then the same quantum of vehicles were added on road in just 6 years. So that's the rate at which the private motor vehicles are increasing. And because of that, we are also seeing a lot of increase in congestion, pollution, and of course, emissions as well. So what is happening is now there is around 12 to 13% of emissions which are just coming from transportation sector alone. And of course, in urban India, it's even more prominent. Because of that, India is now number 2 in the world of deaths which are happening because of transport emission, just after China, which is quite big. Now, electric vehicle, because even if the grid is not clean, it does lead to a significant reduction in emissions. So we actually did do a research with University of California, Davis on what would India's future look like if we continue our trajectory the way transition is happening right now versus if we were to do a shift to, let's say, walking, cycling, public transportation, if we were to do a shift to 100% electrification, and if we were to do a shift plus electrification. And what we found when we actually did all of the numbers were that only a shift plus 100% electrification will help India achieve the net zero target that they have set in by 2070. That is the Paris Agreement targets. So only under that scenario will India actually achieve the Paris Agreement targets. So we actually don't have any other option but to go 100% electrification plus go towards a shift towards sustainable mobility. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for us to achieve all of the targets that we have set. Similarly, I think the easier targets that we have as well,
2030,
the
2050.
2030 targets as well. So currently, our bus electrification is at a 3.4%.
But the solar sector is moving ahead of its target, right?
Yes,
It's
they are.
completing its target before the time.
Yes,
And
yes.
in mobility, whatever target as of now we have taken, we have slipped upon it. In coming 2030, it is going to give us more a robust and clear picture that whether we are getting the bus or we are missing the bus.
Yeah. So far, we would miss the bus because the current projections say that we would only achieve 15% of electrification of buses as if we continue down the same trajectory unless we do something else.
I will come back to you on this because I will need more policy intervention and wish list. At least what can be done from ease of doing business side, we'll be able to start little bit. But let Kush come on the conversation because he has to operate buses and also one of the most biggest handling of passenger movement in India. It is currently largely on the diesel. As a government, as a sector, we has not been able to impress private operators a lot as of now. So first your introduction and then couple of follow-up questions.
Sure. Thank you very much. Before I begin, many Navratri wishes to all of you here. I want to congratulate Mr. Sinha for organizing this. I think India needs many more of these efforts to bring a large country, a country of our size, to something as important. I'd also like to thank Professor Rihan. I fully endorse everything that you said. I think a very holistic approach can only solve this issue. But as Mr. Sinha said, we'll get into the nitty-gritties later. I represent Arbus. I am the Chief Operating Officer. We are a US-based asset-light mass mobility dynamic transport provider. We're into buses. For ease of understanding, you can think of us as Uber for buses. We're operational in the United States. We are operational in Canada. We have already done our soft launch in India, and we are very hopeful that by this Deepavali, we would have gone and done our soft commercial launch. We believe that vehicular transportation has a very large role to play, not only in economic empowerment, but also ensuring that country and as a society, we meet our climate goals. And we believe that not just electric, but we have to go a little deeper because if you look at the data, then you realize that from the well to the wheel, as it were, 70% of the electricity is still coming from coal. So, and I come back to the grid point that Vaishali made, right? Storage will have to happen because you can store at your place locally, far end, near end. That's the way. Generation, storage, transportation, these are three steps that just cannot be overstepped. And I would agree with Professor Rihan on that. And ideally, as a society, we have to understand that how do we make sure that the upstream processes become green? Also, the other question is that does the world have enough lithium to power the energy consumption and replace it with batteries? Therefore, what should the next frontiers be? Will it be hydrogen? Could it be nuclear, biofuel, something else? As a society, we need to fund our universities very well so that great amount of research can come and we are able to tackle all of this together. Of course, it cannot be not said that for things to work, it has to make economic sense.
People have to see the sense of investing in it. All of it together, my hope is that as a country, we will lead this wave, and we will, because we have the most people on the planet, if we do the right thing, we will help the planet the most. Thank you very much, Dr. Sinha.
So before I come up to each one of you with the follow-up question, it brings us to the first round of conversation where you have rightly indicated where we have lithium or not. So dependency on something which you don't have for your national transition and dependency on something which you may end up wasting is because you have to spend huge on the metal for doing that wire connectivity in the pan-India and the transition level. Challenges which are haunting and looking into your eyes, that this is almost bigger than what you have achieved into last 75 years, is creating a lot of question on the economic capability of our energy transition and climate ambitions. So if you have to reach to 100% decarbonization by 2070, it may not happen overnight or within a year. Ease of doing business also works on the climate financing yearly milestone so that we can disseminate 2070 target of $10 trillion economy, green economy I'm saying, I'm not saying the $35 trillion mainstream economy, divided into 5 decades, 2070, 10, 2060, 8, 2056, 2044, and 2030, 2 trillion. So the first question paper which is going to come on our face is in 2030. And to reach to 2030, the opportunity which is being created into different segments, manufacturing, household, commercial, mobility, and solar, hydrogen, among all of these, there are very possible and very narrow possibilities to go ahead if you do not change the way you have been thinking on the transition. If I may look at the kind of numbers you have done into different sectors, let me quote 2 of the different sectors which we also handle in terms of giving them an insight for a $5 trillion to $20 trillion or $25 trillion. India speaks about Viksit Bharat 2047. Now, what is Viksit Bharat? It is not about one sector, one technology, or one segment, or something, one sort of development of one class or one religion or one people. It speaks about the per capita income that each one of us as in purchasing power develop. And how do we develop this and how do we reach to it, and a clear comparison into numbers. It's not only, you might have heard about Viksit Bharat a lot during the 2024 elections, but it is not an election campaign. Out of all election campaigns which we could do in 2014, 19, and 24, this one is my favorite. And why it is my favorite is because it speaks about people. Your per capita income globally right now is 1100 to 22 to 2100 US dollar in India. Now it has reached to 2500?
2500 US
So
dollars, yeah.
last data it was 2200, it's increasing every day. What is a developed country income per capita? 12,000 to 13,000 US dollar per person. The gap between these two, by the time you will reach to 13,000, it will be 15,000. They are growing at the rate of 3%. You are growing at the rate of 6.7%. Your ambition rate is around 8.2%, 8.4% to grow. So by the time you reach to 12, 13,000, they will be on 15,000. So our ambition on a one shot is to reach to 15,000, and to reach there to 15,000, you need to look at the nitty-gritties and the strengths of your economy. The strength of your economy, says in a very credible BCG study recently, is one person, one kid who has taken birth after year 2020. In his lifetime, he will spend 240,000 US dollar. So the total purchasing power that he will have during his life in India, 240,000 US dollar. Your population on 2047 will be 168 crores. Multiply these two, you will get an economy which has a purchasing power of 38+ trillion dollar mainstream economy. And out of it, India is right now aspiring only $10 trillion economy. And to reach to this $10 trillion economy, by 2026 or maybe 2030 to 2035, I'll say, and then 2035 to 2040. In this period, you will be needing 253 US dollar investment opportunity or maybe redirection or maybe possibilities of businesses coming into it. It is currently 40,000 US dollar as of now is a billion US dollar is now the investment which we are receiving. If we have to increase, we'll have to have it 255, 235, 2035 plus, it will increase to 265. A $5 trillion economy is aspiring to become $35 trillion economy with an inbuilt economy of green $10 trillion economy is nearly sounding and projectionally impossible. This impossibility is an inheritance in the power. How do we decarbonize it and become an energy independent? It has to reduce its logistic cost, which is more than, in some cases 20%, in some cases 16 to 14%. The GDP spend of India is 20 to 14%. Majority of developed countries has it in 1 digit. So PM Gati Shakti, e-highways, economic corridor, green hydrogen, electric trucks, electric buses, each one of them who are possible to give you an mobility of people and freight, logistic and commercial on a lower speed, on a decarbonized mode and lower cost is the need of the hour. My closing from a wish list side is to look into the possibilities which you have created and also look into the changing possibilities that globally we can tap upon it. If alone I give a reference of the circular economy, it is 4.5 trillion globally. If 1% of circular economy, India is a third thriving economy right now, fifth, which is questioning and knocking the door of Germany to become fourth. If 1% of circular economy we can tap upon every year, we will have $4.45 billion, including into the targets which we have. So in next 2 years, it is going to be very important for India to look into these possibilities, whether we could make it or we could not make it. Efforts are on the highest peak. My 2 references which I wanted to give you is just a ranking of data consumption which you had at the beginning of Digital India. Anybody has an idea what was India's per day, per year data consumption ranking globally before Digital India's? 123 globally. In 6 years, roughly around 85 months, from 123 global ranking, India consumption on data, can you imagine on what level it would have reached? Any guess? Today it's 1. Globally, we are the highest consumer of data. Nobody can beat us, and this all has happened into Digital India in a period of 7 to 8 years. So if we are looking at some transition in energy, it is not ambitious to be number 1 into solar, number 1 into e-highways. Already you are second manufacturer of truck, third manufacturer of bus and second manufacturer of trucks in India. But you are top in people dying on the roads globally. So of road safety, energy consumption, decarbonization, these all are the key sectors which we are looking for our economy to grow and give you per capita income, increase of what Viksit Bharat as a concept can be seen. And I'm sure that the last few closing remarks I'm going to collect from our speakers, and then we'll have a couple of questions from audience, is going to give us their wish list of having not a position of 8, 9, 10 or somewhere in between 2, 3, but an ambition to become number 1 in all these segments. So we'll start with your side only. What are your wish list of electric mobility, particularly into bus, to go ahead and go on a different scale, different thought process, not somewhere 5%, 10% karenge, ekdam अलग सा करेंगे क्या
For it to absolutely boom, like you said, and I absolutely endorse that, that if we are not the number one, then what's the point of it, right? Because we cannot be moving. See, there's a critical change that happens in society when economic prosperity arrives. People move from community to singular, right? And then the role of education is to bring them back to community, and that's where the big, massive change happens. And when it comes to community travel, there's nothing more greener than buses. And I think buses have a very large role to play. What we can do to make it a mass revolution, so like Vaishali said, it is only about 3% at the moment. Out of the 3%, half of it is still in some assembly line. So on the roads is just about, somewhere between 7.8 to 0.9%. We need to make sure that the financing of it is made very, very transparent. There's a way for the investor to understand that investment per kilometer is going to be, if not the same, at least lesser than that of an ICE. Now we have to understand that ICE engines are pretty much at the end of physics. They've been around for so long, right? A lot of advancements have been done, whereas EV is relatively new technology. When I say that, I must mention that it's been around for about over 2 decades. But for mass mobility and in buses, it's still relatively new because the penetration is less than 1% on the road today. We have to make sure that how do we encourage 84% of the operators of this country, which own less than 5 buses, to start looking at investing somewhere around twice the price that they will pay if they had to buy an ICE vehicle or diesel vehicle, right? So how do we make that? Second is, how do we ensure, and that I have to commend Mr. Sinha, the beautiful thing that you are doing, which is NH4 EV. That's what we need in the entire country. We will have to make sure that charging infrastructure becomes as abundant, as easy as is finding a petrol pump today in any part of the country. Third and most important is, can we encourage consumers to make green choices? Can customers say, I will only get into this vehicle if it is green? Can we find some way of incentivizing the end consumer that if you take a green mode of transport, you get so much of tax credit, carbon credit. We can figure out ways of doing it. Because mass change only happens when mass demands it. And let's not forget, capital follows demand. Can we create demand, create supply, and economize it in a manner that people find it easy, profitable to do, and then mass change will happen. Rally Arbus is very committed, and we want to tell you, Mr. Sinha, that more than 30% of our fleet is going to be electric in less than a year. And we'll be able, why only 30, why not more? Because the OEMs can only make it 30. So we are really pushing hard on that.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Yes, your takeaway wish list. Thank you, Love. I think he deserves a big round of applause for giving a good ambition of 30% bus.
I think 2 quick recommendations for public sector, and then I would like to add on to the private sector as well. I think for public sector, the government of India did a fantastic job in providing the subsidies through various schemes, the PM Eva Seva scheme, and then the PM Drive, the FAME schemes as well. And what it did was create a huge demand from the public sector, the STUs, for buses to such an extent that now the per kilometer price for electric buses, at least for public sector, has come to such a cost that they don't need subsidies anymore. It is up to a point where the total lifetime cost of an electric bus is equivalent to a diesel bus or a CNG bus, at least for the public sector. But now what is required is that even from the public sector side, if they want to electrify the bus as per the targets that each state has set in their EV policy, if they approach an OEM, the OEM says that there is a 2-year delay in the delivery of electric buses. And because of that, the STUs are now backing out in achieving their targets. So what would help actually now is actually to set ZEV credits and mandates going forward. And there is global research which supports that whichever country has actually, after subsidies, has actually set ZEV mandates, has actually been able to accelerate their EV transition. Yes. So actually, I think now that we have provided enough subsidies for the public sector, I think it's important for us to look at setting ZEV manufacturing and production and also selling mandates. Because at least for the public side of it, that's where what is required now.
Very true, very true.
I think that would be one for the public side of it. For the private side of it, I think I would like to add on the costing side of it. When we were discussing with the private sector, with BOCI as well, we found out that it's very difficult for them to actually get loans for private buses right now.
Climate financing is something
Yes, yes.
very requisitely
Yes.
required within an instrument.
Yes. So the way it happened with solar, where the interest subvention schemes were given, lower interest rates were given, that has actually not come in for the private vehicles right now.
Time may not allow us to speak anything
Yes.
about climate financing, but we have been trying to work from last 2 years to create an instrument like the way bank look at other instrument for manufacturing, for highway, for solar. Many of them, they are in a good shape and they can quickly refer to it and say yes or no to one of the financing. They did not have an instrument for green financing. We have been working on this from last 2 years, and fortunately this year we have been managed to take out 2 of the instrument. One is of 3,672 crore rupees for upgradation of highways into e-highway, entire Bharat Mala and Sagar Mala on NHEV. And second is specifically for zero emission trucking of 500 crore. 3 days before, our Prime Minister given 500 dedicated funds subsidy for zero emission trucking. So on 11th, I think PM e-drive has came, and 8th with Kush in the Chennai, right? Chennai we open the instrument. This serves only one part. I'm still not happy with the instrument. It only serves the advanced process of 12 months. It covers the viability gap funding, but there is definitely much more to do into it.
Yeah. I think if it comes in the private bus sector, it would really help them in getting loans and even longer loan periods as well, because they're not able to make
It has all this.
it profitable.
The long period, 0% interest, 12 months moratorium, it has all of them.
Yeah. I think last recommendation would also be to explore leasing for buses. I think for some states, for example, we are working in Tamil Nadu as well. We found out that leasing of buses under the current model is not even allowed. For electric buses, it's a very lucrative model because they're not able to buy the buses, but if they're able to lease it out, it's very lucrative for them to do it. I think those also in terms of regulations, if they are allowed, it would be possible for them to do that.
Time
That's
is
it.
crossing. We will have to wrap up in, I think, 1 minute's remark. We also want to save some time for Sir to do a concluding remark. Vaishali, if you can just give me 1 or 2 in wish list in the green building standards.
Yeah. Basically, as I earlier said, that the passive technology needs to look into the picture. Other than that, there is a huge development which is happening in the market in terms of sustainable materials. So if we try using sustainable materials in our construction, in our regular residences as well, that will eventually help to reduce the overall carbon footprint in the building sector. So right now, around 40% is the total carbon footprint which just comes from the buildings itself, and building and infrastructure in terms of industries, smaller homes, or
I
big
have a
residences.
small question. We have seen a lot of airports saying they're green building and they're compliant to it. What are they? They are using steel and they reduce their carbon footprint in material?
So there is a whole circle. So basically, as Sir rightly said, that there is 1/3 rules and 1/4 rules. So all these comes into play, like how are you decarbonizing each and every impact you are creating while using those kind of materials. So it's not like that you don't use steel.
Material and the use, both of them,
Yeah.
they are having a dependability.
Offsetting all of them together. Like if you are using steel, use recycled steel.
Architecture comes in a very important role then. How you are going to
Yes.
place a mirror or a glass or a transparent wall, it all
Definitely.
works for it.
Just like we are working on the NHEV model, so we have placed it in a circular manner that it can, based on the site locations, it can be flexible to increase or decrease its size. Similarly, we have placed rooftops with the green gardens so that it eventually reduces the overall heat gain. And then on top of that, we have placed solar panels so that it offsets the overall energy consumption. So that is the whole thing about decarbonization in buildings, that if we are putting some material out there, how are we offsetting it?
Okay, okay, works for me. Saurav, very quick one, maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, so there are 2 points. One is, see, while we are investing on the infrastructure side, the vehicles and everything, it's very important that the operation side is also taken care. So I would stress that the utilization of this infrastructure is the best, and for that there should be a software system that helps predict, this particular charger may go down, it requires maintenance, or an early warning is given to the OEM that you need to send a person to repair the charger. So this monitoring, controlling, and predictive analytics plays a very vital role to ensure that the utilization and the availability of this infra is there. Otherwise, all the investment that is going, will get hampered. So that's one thing. Second thing, which is on the sourcing side, which sir had mentioned at the starting point, is that it's a wish list that the DERMS, that is distributed energy resource system, should also be integrated as a mainstream with the power generation and the utilities, so that when you have the excess energy or you have less energy, how that algorithms or how you need to manage the supply and demand is taken care. And eventually things like energy storage system, demand response management system, where time of use, these are the things that are already being implemented in the other part of the world, and we bring that as a leapfrog over here and help people to effectively utilize their vehicles, when to charge, and then give back the energy to the household itself, not back to the grid. And there's a concept called as vehicle to grid, and this is what we should, as a futuristic point of view, not immediately, but yes, we should look at it as, having an inverter at home versus, your car helping you take care of your local needs, which are immediate and could be at any point of time of the day. So that's all from my side.
Thank you, very, very valuable. Rajesh ji.
Nowadays, there is one anxiety, that mild anxiety has main resistance for EVs. So we have to develop a system, network or software, we can say, that anybody, any driver, any vehicle owner can find nearby charging station. It should not corporate to corporate, it should global. Means central, India, central government of India or any government taken care that nearby charging station is little far. So that anxiety we can reduce, and we need to try, जहाँ पर भी possible है, थोड़ी भी possibility है, we need to go for a solar, because हमारा दिन का और रात का जो travel का जो traffic है, वो I think 85 to 15% day और night का difference है, and we have very good solar sunshine energy, so we can reduce that grid connectivity or grid energy in place of solar. At least day time में तो हम उस पे 100% for sure कर सकते हैं. Night time का we can use ESS, or there are so many options.
Thank you. I think you wish to say something.
I just wanted to say that India needs 100,000 NHEVs, Mr. Sinha, and we need you more than that. So
Thank you. So kind of you.
For it to happen, really.
I don't take it in a positive manner, because we have other pilots to do, and this is going in a very good manner. Now it should not be a pilot, it should be a national transition. Yeah. And I think the recent 14th Lok Sabha, what discussion had at the parliament, it has given a good momentum towards that we should roll out a national transition like NHEV, so that not only Bharat Mala and Sagar Mala, but almost all national highway should be taken up and upgraded into e-highways. This would have happened long before. I don't know why it did not happen, but let's put closer to it. Before sir gives a closing remark, any question comes in your mind? raise your hand, and after sir's remark, we'll be able to take. We are very pressed with timeline, so sir will not be able to give you much time, but I'm sure you will be able to make it.
Thank you so much. Actually, I'm very happy the note at which we started, that we need to look into all aspects. The panel has lived up to that point actually. So we have covered everything almost from vehicles to conservation also, analytics and other components. I believe that this solarization is, there is no doubt about it. The way forward is solarization. Only thing is how to best utilize that. So I'll quickly give 2-3 points which I believe. One is, as Vaishali has mentioned, we need to reduce the demand. And our co-panelist Love Kush very beautifully said that it is actually a conflict between individual and community. So if we can have some awareness, if we are a thinking citizen, I can address if I can reduce my energy requirements, so many of the challenges can be addressed. So as we have mentioned, first we should reduce, then shift to green electricity. Now, solarization can only be successful only if we complement with the storage options. But storage has this challenge, that cost challenge is there, plus dependence is also there. So how to reduce the requirement? So we need to reduce the actual requirement of storage. One part is this, other part is pumped storage and other options. Third point is we should explore other chemistries which we are doing, not only lithium ion, because you see, storage also, there are different requirements for different segments. Vehicle, there is a different requirement. Household, there is a different requirement. Grid level, there is a different requirement. So accordingly, the time is to customize the storage solution as per the need, and we are working on that. And most important point which I want to conclude with that, we need to look at the larger picture, which I believe at policy level we are already doing that. I feel our R&D and academic institutions are not really up to that now, and we need to convey this message there also, that we need to break our compartments and work in a comprehensive manner. Energy sector has different components and different expertise have to combine to achieve the target of 2070 net zero. Thank you so much.
Any question? Anyone has a question? Only one question will be taken. Please give a microphone to gentleman. You can take my mic if somebody can take it.
Hi, my name is Dheeraj Tiwari. I'm in cyber security domain. So my question is that we are talking about the energy and conservation, everything, but what about the cyber security part in this? What kind of standards we are going to follow, and are we ready and prepared for that?
For me, this question?
I think it's for you, yes.
Okay. This is a very important point which he has raised. And I always say that for an electrical engineer, biggest nightmare right now is if something happens to our infrastructure, because we are so dependent on it. And cyber security, cyber threat is the more difficult one compared to physical threat. And we already have seen some attempts and examples. And with solarization, actually, I believe this threat is, I would say we are getting more vulnerable, because the number of points are increasing, distributed. So we need to work on it, and I believe there is a strong push at policy level as well as R&D level towards finding solutions and preventive measures. And I won't say that this is something for which we can never be fully ready. This is an evolving thing. We are doing something, those who want to attack, they are also evolving. So this is something which will be a continuous process. I find this is already in the high importance areas, and required importance is given, and the work is being carried out at all levels. So I don't see there is, this problem is not identified or not, people are not working on. And this is a big problem which should be addressed.
I would like to add on this. So the technology, the platforms that are being developed, I would take right from the sourcing, that the DERMS or the the chargers that you are setting up, the energy storage system. The first and most important thing is that the registration of these devices. Is this authentication of these devices? Are they valid or not? Let's say this is taken care. Second comes is the system also checks that if some charger is suddenly sending lot of heartbeats or lot of signals, then how you take care of this thing? So a sudden change in behavior. So there's where the analytics part comes in it, and this is also being implemented. So these are just few examples. In the interest of time, I've just shared about this.
Thank you, gentlemen, each one of you for being wonderful, patient listeners, and each one of you who has given a perspective to what we expected from this panel. Thank you so much. We'll take it off the word. They have said that they will cut the line if we do not close it.
So we have a little memento session for all the dignitaries and our panelists. I will request you to please do the honors. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, I would like to say there's a timer board there. Downstairs, right down there is a scanner. You can direct click and get the pictures of the session. Please do scan, get click, and get your pictures from the session. Thank you. Can we have more? Fatafat. Two more. Fatafat. We just need two more. Thank you very much. And for sir, I will request the ladies to please do the honors. Thank you. Thank you very, very much, team. Thank you. I will request everyone to please help us to click a group picture there. Thank you very much.